I was 5 years old and I was obsessed with spanking. Not being spanked myself, but like if a friend was threatened with a spanking, to me that was the most exciting thing ever.
You were on the media side at the Wall Street Journal, and then by night you were a professional dominatrix at a dungeon.
To close my laptop and then run down to the dungeon and put on a sexy outfit and get to be a different person. I mean, I was feeling very main character energy. And these were powerful men. If you were to look at them, you think they have everything. Because on the outside they did, but they were missing this one thing that they found a way to meet their need.
Republicans tend to fantasize more about infidelity, cuckolding, and for liberals, it tends to be more about like power dynamics.
And the consensual side of that. This session still haunts me, and he snapped at me, and it's almost like the room went cold.
Welcome to Lesson Translation, the podcast where desire gets decoded. I'm your host, sexologist Natassia Miller, and there's one thing before we begin. If you hit follow wherever you listen to our podcast, it will help us grow and bring you even better guests and conversations. It takes 2 seconds, it's free, and it means the world. Now let's get into it. Amanda Dames, aka the Kink Consultant, welcome to Lesson Translation.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to have you today because I tend to be more vanilla leaning, so it's great to have a guest who brings on the kinkier side.
Okay.
And for those who don't know you, you're a sexologist, a Somatica certified sex and relationship coach. You work with individuals and couples to help them explore their desires and improve their communication and explore their kinks. And so I think that's, we're aligned in a few ways of how we work, but you certainly take it to the next level.
I try to take everyone up to their next kinky level. Even maybe you today. We'll see.
Yes. And one of the first questions that people always ask me, and I imagine you get that too, is like, how the heck did you get into this? And there's something that you say is that you realize that you were kinky when you were a kid.
Yeah.
But when we're that young, we don't really have the vocabulary. We don't understand really what that is. And so I'm wondering what was going on at that age in retrospect now that made you realize that you were kinky then?
Oh, great question. Okay. I was 5 years old and I was obsessed with spanking. Not being spanked myself, but like if a friend was threatened with a spanking, to me, that was the most exciting thing ever. And I couldn't help it. I'd get really excited and I'd like ask them later about the spanking that they got. And I knew it was weird. No one told me it was weird, but like at that age, you're actually hyper aware of when you're being weird or when you're being normal. And I knew, okay, I have to like keep this under wraps, pretend I'm not excited about it. And this obsession went on for years until I was 13 and it started to click with me. I was like, oh, this is something called kink, and I'm into it. And all of my desires have something to do with sex.
That's early for you to have clock that in.
Yes and no. Early to clock that part, but then I do think that my sexual development was actually slower than everyone else because in the media, in the world, you get images of what sex is or what being sexy is.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that. I didn't have the click of like the association. So in terms of like when I masturbated, when I really thought about what sex was and was turned on by it, I was years behind everyone else. I mean, years behind. I mean, like I think I masturbated for the first time when I was, 13. But I was behind because I didn't fully understand that what I was obsessing over was actually sexual. I had no outlet for it though.
That's so interesting. And the funny thing is, like, I enjoy light spanking today, but when my mom used to spank me, like, it terrified me. There was nothing that indicated that I would enjoy it later in life.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think I enjoyed it either, but I have one of the best memories of, like, all of my cousins, sisters. I do not remember being spanked once, and I think I blocked it out in my head as, like, you need to be able to enjoy this sexually, so just forget it ever happened at all in your actual childhood.
But was there anything in your, like, did you feel like it was something innate or in your environment that was conducive to this kink specifically?
No, I don't think so, because I actually had my mom on my podcast and I sat her down and asked her things like, did you spank me as a child?
What was your form of punishment?
Yeah. But like my mom just raised us like little adults. So she said she's Irish, so she uses the word smack. She was like, I give you one smack on the butt and that was it. There was never a spanking. So this obsession with punishment, if anything, it may have been because there was a lack of any of it in the house. But
interesting.
I don't know. I really do believe. So this obsession is called a fetish. And there's a difference between a kink and a fetish. And when you have a fetish, you need to think about it to orgasm. It compels you.
Yes.
Kinks are kind of nice to have things. So I am a firm believer that a lot of fetishes you're born with. If there is someone out there who can figure out how you get a fetish or a kink, there's no one way. So like it's hard to know.
Yeah, because that's one of the questions that I often get is like, is a kink tied to a trauma? And it can be, but the research has consistently shown that that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
And so to your point with fetishes as well, like it's kind of hard for you to know what the root cause of it is.
Yes.
As a sexologist, I'm picky about the products I recommend, and Libido has become one of the brands that I trust both personally and professionally. If you've been wanting to feel more turned on in your own body and more connected with your partner, Libido is genuinely one of my favorite ways to bridge that gap. On my solo nights, I reach for Rush, their pulsing clitoral stimulator that's soft, intuitive, and lets you build intensity at your own pace. Plus, it's elegantly designed to sit on your nightstand. And when I'm with my husband, we bring in Loop, their vibrating ring that adds a warm hum of pleasure for both of us. So if you're ready to upgrade your solo and partnered rituals, head to libido.com and use my code LUST15 at checkout for 15% off.
And there are people who I know who I work with, and they have a very serious kink. It's not a fetish, right? But something happened in their childhood. Something as innocent as like being really constipated and needing an enema, and then developing a lifelong interest in enemas, and that being part of their sexual preference is like to have an enema before it, and that's kind of their foreplay. That is something that wasn't actually traumatic, but it imprinted on them as something super important. And that's the closest thing I could really say is kind of like not a trauma, but also a trauma for them that became a kink later in life.
Yeah, not necessarily like sexually rooted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like not everyone is broken. Like no one is broken, but like there's so much stigma around being kinky or having a fetish that, oh, something must be wrong with them. And it's like, no, they were constipated when they were 7. Like that's what was wrong with them.
Yeah, and the definition of kink, it can also, it's something that is so like broad in which you can barely even define it, because if it is something that is outside of the status quo, and if you consider what is the status quo, which changes by culture, you even mentioned before, like if the status quo is missionary sex, anything outside of that is kinky.
Yeah.
So
I mean, blowjobs used to be kinky. And now I think
Isn't it wild?
Now I think if you
I mean, I will say some people will still live by that.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you there, but like in New York City, if you weren't giving a blowjob, you'd be thought of as frigid or something like that. It's just a different, the way we view things has shifted so much, even over the last 20, maybe 25 years.
I was going to ask you that. What have you noticed has shifted in terms of, you know, kinks that have become more mainstream over time?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So there's the obvious ones like cuckolding, foot fetish.
Wait, for anybody who doesn't know what cuckolding is.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Thank you. Cuckolding is when there's something called cuckolding where a man enjoys basically feeling humiliated by his wife going out and having sex with another man. And that man might be in the room, like the husband might watch it happen, or he might just enjoy knowing that it happened.
Or receiving updates during.
Yes. Yeah. And like, or on the extreme end, cleaning up their wife with their tongue after the thing has happened.
Interesting.
So that it goes to extremes.
How does that differ from hot wifing?
Hot wifing is from more of a place of the man being, the husband being super proud of his wife and like, go get him, honey, you know, like go be a hot wife, go have sex with that person. And I'm not reveling in the shame, embarrassment, or humiliation of it.
Okay.
I'm celebrating it.
Got it.
Yeah. So it's like really nuanced. The actions, the physical actions are the same. It's what's going on in the headspace that's different.
And do you feel like that really lives, those two that we just talked about really live more in heterosexual relationships?
No, it's possible to enjoy the idea of, I mean, I think jealousy, humiliation, feeling like you're winning by having the prize partner. Mm-hmm. I think that's universal.
Yeah.
So I think gay culture is actually a lot kinkier or more open to kinkiness, so it becomes less taboo.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you almost don't need to label it as much.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that those labels don't exist. I'm just saying that when you're like in gay culture, you're already bucking the trend. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
So everything else after that is interesting, but also not novel because it's like, oh, you're already doing the thing. I think in heterosexual relationships where we are taught you're supposed to be husband and wife, have the perfect family, just be together, monogamy is key to survival.
Yeah.
It's when you do something other than that that it becomes titillating.
Titillating.
Oh, I love that word. I'll throw
love
it in
that
wherever I
word.
can.
That's so funny. I was recently at Esther Perel's live sessions, and Dr. Justin Lee Miller was there giving a presentation on, all of his research of sexual fantasies and how that's divided by political parties. And so Republicans tend to fantasize more about infidelity, cuckolding, all of these things that go against what their status quo is, which is like heterosexual monogamy, family-oriented, lifestyles.
Yeah.
And for liberals, it tends to be more about like power dynamics.
And the consensual side of that, I know.
Yes.
Because I will say that people who are more conservative leaning really strongly identify with either being very manly or being very feminine. And I think that they just love to challenge that within themselves privately. And it's okay to do it privately.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also think that liberals are a lot more willing to try things. And I think that even just playing in the dom sub space and those power dynamics and power exchanges, I feel like it's something everyone likes to test into. And I do wonder, I believe Dr. Justin Lee Miller when he is doing all this research, but I wonder, are these things happening in those more conservative circles and they don't have the language for it because they're not as aware? This is my hypothesis, their theory that I'm interested in exploring.
I am sure that could be a factor.
Yeah, you're mostly just hearing my inner thoughts right now that I've been thinking about for the last month.
Yeah. But before we keep diving deeper, I want to, because your story, it's funny because you also worked in the financial sector like I did, and you were on the media side at the Wall Street Journal by day when you were living here in New York City, and then by night you were a professional dominatrix at a dungeon. Yeah. So tell me, how did this come about?
So I moved here from Ireland. I was born in America, moved here from Ireland. I didn't have a backup for me. So when I was working at the Wall Street Journal, they were paying me next to nothing and I could barely pay my bills. So I thought, I need another job. And I went to Craigslist and found a job as a dominatrix, which was right up my alley. I was like, I'm in New York. Let me live it up.
But were you already aware of this kink profession and the kink community and everything?
Oh, yeah. By the age of 13, it was like I knew nothing, and then the light was turned on. I knew within 1 week about kink, dominatrixes, power exchange, all of it, truly within 1 week once I figured it all out.
Were you already practicing this when you were living in Europe?
Yeah, my first boyfriend was when I was 14, and I got him to spank me.
Okay.
So once I figured it out, I was still embarrassed, but I am a girl who is always going to have her needs met. So from the first boyfriend, I just didn't know how deep it went. And I had never dominated anyone before. So I was aware of kink. I had read a ton of books. I mean, this was also pre 50 Shades of Grey. So then 50 Shades of Grey came out. I felt slightly more accepted. I found even more books, more communities online.
Yeah.
I was much more involved. I mean, even in Europe, I had gone to munches, which are meetups of kinky people in a very vanilla setting.
The ones that are, my understanding is that they're the ones that are trying to dip their feet into it, right?
Yeah, and it's the way we socialize. It's let's go hang out with kinky people, but talk about all of the things that you're not going to talk about at a dungeon party. Yeah. Not that you can't, just you're sitting around a diner or having a couple of drinks. So I had developed a kinky community before going to work at a dungeon, but it was nowhere near as extensive as what I had when I started working as a dominatrix.
And how was it to live that double life?
Exhilarating. I got to live a double life twice. When I was a dominatrix and later when I started my business and stayed in corporate America, so as the Kink Consultant and working in corporate America still. But to close my laptop and then run down to the dungeon and put on a sexy outfit and get to be a different person, work that shift, go to bed, wake up the next morning, and go back to the Wall Street Journal. I think it kept my life interesting and fun, and I was feeling very main character energy at that time in my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I loved it. But also I just loved every time you went and met a new client, you were putting on a new production for them, and you
Right.
were helping them live a fantasy that either they'd never lived out before or they couldn't get anywhere else. So you were giving them this amazing thing. And I took that responsibility on heavily. Like, I really wanted to know what drove them, what they needed.
Right.
It was just it was the perfect change from my day job.
But for those who don't know, what does a professional dominatrix do?
We involve ourselves, I'm no longer a dominatrix, but we involve ourselves in the fantasy, headspace, and role play of a client's fantasy. There is no sex, there is no kissing.
Right.
It's not about the sexual side of it, it's really about the foreplay, role play side of it. It's almost like their own little like role play that they get to
Live out.
live out in this room, and then they go back onto the street and this doesn't touch any other part of their lives.
Isn't that fascinating?
Fascinating is like an understatement, because not only were we having those experiences, they were sharing things that they'd never said out loud before, never said to another person. I got to find out about what their real lives were like and how they ended up in a situation where they couldn't get their partner to do this with them.
Yeah.
And these were powerful men who had high income jobs. They had, if you were to look at them, you'd think they have everything, because on the outside they did, but they were missing this one thing that they found a way to meet their need.
Yeah, and I remember years ago when I first heard about, powerful men who are the decision makers and that tend to be, the biggest clients at these dungeons. It's really because they're making all these decisions and they just want to surrender.
Yeah, they want to be taken on an adventure. So many of them. It's not always even about surrender. It's like, can you make something happen for me? And some of them really just wanted an exciting, true journey. Do you know what I mean? Whether that involved the power dynamics, whether that involved them being subjected to impact play like spanking or caning, or being made to kneel and crawl and kiss and lick your boot, or even just tying up their cock and balls in string and adding a little bit of like
that
torture
to, me,
to it.
I have to say, not to yuck anyone's yum, but that is wild for me.
I won't yuck anyone's yum either, but I will say that I was 24 at the time and 25. I didn't really think about long-term effects of certain things. And even now as a professional, I really don't encourage something like ball busting, which is where you have a woman knee you in the balls. Well, I guess it could be anyone, but someone kneeing you in the balls over and over again. And I just can't get behind that safety-wise. So I think there are certain things.
But for those people who enjoy more of that masochism, what is at the root of that for them? What have you found that?
Being a little bit of a masochist myself, the pleasure pain receptors are so confusing that even though it hurts to have any type of impact like that, there's something releasing, like your body overcorrects for you and starts to release endorphins to make it feel good. So you're getting this dual rush. Yes, the pain, but also everything else coming in to make it feel better. I hate running. Are you a runner?
Yeah.
Do you get runner's high?
I do.
Okay, I think it's the same thing. I think you're a bigger masochist than I am, to be honest. I hate running so much, and I just haven't experienced runner's high. But just like that, if you're not loving the pain of a spanking, I don't think you have that chemical surge that makes it enjoyable for you.
But do you find something that can be even more painful, like ball busting, for example, right? Do you think that that's also rooted in a level of shame that they're trying to like release or make, or almost it's like, I deserve this pain because of any internalized shame or guilt that they can feel with other aspects of their lives?
That is a fantastic question, because I like to make the point that our desires don't need to make sense. So one of my core desires, a lot of people have what I like to call like standard core desires: feeling safe, feeling adored, feeling worshipped. Those are commonly understood sexual desires that we might feel. My sexual desire is to be punished. I haven't done anything wrong, but my core desire really is to be punished in this way that turns me on. I don't believe I did anything wrong. I just know that that's what I enjoy. That feeling of punishment turns me on. I believe from working with all of these clients that it is a similar feeling. It's sort of like, I deserve this. And sometimes you have no reason behind it other than there's just something that tells you you deserve it. And you enjoy playing in that headspace. Because I'm going to tell you right now, very few of the clients who I did that to deserved it. Some were kind of annoying and you enjoyed doing it. But very few, like none of them actually deserved it. But in their headspace, what they wanted to feel like was that they deserved it. And that's the one area I don't deeply question when people ask for things like that.
Right.
Because there's often no answer. And I want to keep them in a space of just enjoying the moment and it happening.
Allowing that to unfold. Yeah.
Doesn't mean I also don't want to know. Like, it's interesting.
I understand. You know what's one question that came up as I was researching for this is why a dungeon? What is the history behind that?
Ooh, I'm not even really sure of the history behind a dungeon, but I do know that BDSM as a whole and this interest in sadism and masochism, I mean, sadism and masochism as terms were made popular, created for the Marquis de Sade wrote books that really depicted terrible, I mean, I can't even tell you to go read them because they depicted terrible things.
Okay.
But that's where those words came along. But just because they were coined after him, it does not mean that didn't exist before him. So there are signs from cave paintings of spankings and other type of punishment and BDSM elements from, I guess, before we were even writing. So it's existed for a really long time. And even in Victorian brothels, this service existed. But I think over time, especially in cities like New York, LA, where dungeons, and Berlin, where they popped up and thrived, there was a need to actually differentiate from just wanting sex. Because as we talked about, wanting BDSM and wanting kink and exploring these fantasies.
It's a different world.
It's a different world. So,
which a lot of people might not realize that, like, sex is not involved in this.
Yeah.
It ends up tapping into a different element, erotic element for people.
Yeah, and a lot of people left the dungeon super horny, and for so many of us, it is a type of floor play.
Yeah.
But it also isn't like we need to get off. It really is its own thing.
Okay.
Yeah, well, a lot of us do need to get off after it, but it's enough to get that part fulfilled in the right way that you can go have your sexual needs met in so many other places.
Yeah, absolutely. So what kind of dom were you?
Oh, I was such a caretaker, mommy, dom type of person. There were certain types of pain I liked to cause, but then there was a lot that I didn't because I just wanted to emotionally support the person I was there with and give them a lot of care. And I liked a lot of fun. And I thought as a mommy, I felt really authentically mommy dommy, even though I was very young. And that was the type of dom I was. So yes, I could be sadistic, but I like to have a reason to be sadistic. It didn't really turn me on to just go into a ball busting session. But if someone wanted to be caned, and that's like being hit with a really thin piece of wood.
Okay.
Not like a normal walking cane.
Right.
But it's a very intense punishment. You only give 6 or 12 strokes usually. If they wanted that and we could develop a reason that they deserved it and a storyline behind it or some backstory and a headspace that I could create around it, I really enjoyed that too. So a little bit of a sadist, but mostly a mommy.
Okay. And what are the different archetypes of doms?
Oh, so there are your true dom, which is sort of that power exchange dynamic type. There's the caretaker dom, which is the mommy, the daddy dom type. There are masters who enjoy a lot more control. I would say that they are highly detailed and observant, and they're paired mostly with a slave, submissive type, someone who serves them throughout their day. There's financial doms, FinDom, which is very popular at the moment online.
Why do you think it's trending now?
I think that because of OnlyFans, sex work, and I'm very happy about this, has gone mainstream, right? And there is this idea that being a FinDom is easy money. In fact, there's this idea that doing any type of sex work is easy money, but it's still a job. the OnlyFans stars did not just get on there and turn on a camera. They are marketing geniuses. They knew how to make themselves big,
Right.
and more props
It's
to them.
also like just a sliver of, the OnlyFans creators that really made it that big.
Yes, there are so many people, I think, who also think, oh, I can just do this and it'll be...
No, I've heard that the average income for an OnlyFans creator is $5,000 a month for a lot of work. And so people might not be aware. They think that they're going to strike gold. And it's not that simple.
Like, don't replace your day job.
Yeah.
So I don't think any OnlyFans people are out there saying, oh, it's so easy. However, there are a lot of people in social media going online and saying, oh, be a findom, it's so easy. And they are selling courses about it. They're making videos. And it's really just for the clout, those videos being pushed, selling a course where they're making money from people who want to be findoms as opposed to from men giving them a ton of money. So I think it's this idea that, oh, it's so easy, men will just give you money. And that's... maybe some people get lucky, but that's not normally the case.
Yeah. I mean, that comes with a level of trust and, relationship cultivation that
and
takes
understanding
time.
Of being a dominant, It's really not just give me some money. It is taking an interest in them and taking them on a journey to give you some money, but also they want to believe it. They want to feel that there's a reason for it. So it's not just give me money or buy me Taco Bell. It's so much deeper.
Yeah. Okay, so when you were doing this work as a professional dom, what did you find, like, what were people's desires and needs and wants?
Some of them just wanted to be seen. They wanted their desire to be validated. They wanted to know they weren't freaks. They didn't want to feel embarrassed. Mm-hmm. They felt they could come in and tell us anything, and we would try our best to make it happen. And we cannot underestimate how empowering that is for people to just feel normal.
What is a striking example of, a scene that a client had requested that you made come true?
I always give this example. It's not that I personally made this come true. As a group, we would make this come true.
How many of you were there?
Working there, I think there could be 20 or 30 girls working there, but you had specific shifts that you showed up to.
Right.
So at any one time at the dungeon, I think the most people I ever saw in there were 15.
Okay.
Yeah. But there was one guy, I talk about this guy a lot because it was one of my most fun sessions. He wanted to pretend, this man was in his 60s, maybe even older. When you're 25, you have no idea how old anyone is.
Yeah. Everyone is old, actually. Yeah, it's so funny. And now I'm 36, and I'm like, when you're 25, you're a kid, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's so funny.
But I'm 37, same thing.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, oh, all of these men I'm sure were young, Like they were probably like, this man really was, though. I remember his body. He was on the older side. He would come in and he wanted to pretend we were in high school and we were a high school biker gang, like motorcycle gang, and we were bullying him and beating him up, and we would threaten to give him swirlies and things like that. And we would be dressed. Before he came to session, he would go to Walgreens and buy us all really cool scrunchies and hair clips and bright lipstick, and he would bring this big bag in and he would choose 6, 7, 8 girls, and we'd all go into session with him. He'd give us all these things and we'd have to put them on and go into session and then bully him. And he was the kindest older gentleman, and he wanted us to threaten to give him swirlies. We'd write on his body, we'd like strip him down, write on his body in lipstick, like embarrassing things like slut, wimp, things that embarrassed him.
Right.
So, and then at the end of the session, when he was in the bathroom, like cleaning it off, and we'd go in and help him get it off of his back, he'd be like, I told you guys not to write on me with lipstick. My wife might see this. But every week he brought more lipstick. So I think it was this difference for him that in the moment he could get so caught up and he wanted to be embarrassed. But afterwards, the reality set in a little bit. And I think that's a stark difference for people. And that's most indicative of what most sessions were like. People would have that moment after the session where they'd sort of retreat into themselves a little bit more than when they were in the middle of it and really being themselves.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation where, I know that safe words are established. For those who don't know, a safe word is a word that indicates that you want to pause or stop the act. And I know that sometimes when you're in the middle of it, in the middle of the scene, you can kind of forget to express your safe word, right? Like
Yeah.
it just leaves you. And so have you ever been in a situation where the person that you were domming was so lost in the moment that they were unable to
Use a safe word?
Yeah.
Yeah. This session still haunts me. Not that it ended safely, but the energy shift from the session haunts me. I had a client and I had him edging himself, which means he brings himself near the point of ejaculation. I am not touching him, but I'm also not letting him orgasm, right? And he's begging me to come. And I continue to say no. And I had misjudged, I think, how far I had taken him and how close he was and how much he wanted to come. And he snapped at me, and it was nothing bad happened. He sucked all of his energy back in, and it's almost like the room went cold. He switched like that. And I was in a dom flow where I was just really feeling myself, and I thought we were fucking lockstep
In it.
and I
Yeah.
just both breaking that connection and just feeling how sudden it was and not hearing a safe word, but instead having him start yelling at me was a time where I really think he forgot his safe word. At any point before that, he could have said yellow. He could have been like, no, I really do need to come. Can you just leave the room or something? But we were both so in it that I think there was a disconnect there. So it's happened, and it happens a lot of people. Sometimes also people feel weak. Like, oh, if I use my safe word, it's like tapping out. Men especially feel this way. They feel like if they can't put up with it, it makes them weaker, which is absolutely not true.
Of course it's not. Yeah.
But I have had those where people go farther than they even wanted to go because they just wanted to prove they could do it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's funny because one of the things that we know is communication in the kink world tends to be so much stronger than in the vanilla world, because you have to negotiate your boundaries and your agreements. And at the same time, because of the actions that are taking place, abuse can also be prevalent.
Yeah, it can.
And so it's just really important to be aware of that.
Yeah, and it's super hard sometimes, especially when you're in a dynamic with someone and it's a partner. I think it can be really easy to abuse your own power, but then it can also be really easy to convince yourself that whatever abuse is happening is part of something you already agreed to. And it's easy to gaslight yourself into thinking this is just part of it. So you have to be super aware and constantly checking in with yourself, especially if you're the submissive, and think, am I actually comfortable with this? Am I enjoying it? Or is it pushing a boundary I don't want pushed? And no, you have the power to stop that and say no and call a safe word. And that would be something I really want people to understand if they do explore this. It gets to look however you want it to look.
Right.
It doesn't need to be whatever version I'm talking about, you're talking about, or anyone on the internet is talking about. If you feel uncomfortable with it, that is enough of a reason to stop it.
Yeah, absolutely. So at some point, you decide to leave the dungeon.
Yeah.
And your professional dom career, and you shift to becoming the kink consultant.
Yes.
Tell us about that change. Why did you move forward with it?
Okay, so I left the dungeon because my career was taking off and I just couldn't keep up with the shifts. Like, I was literally traveling the world for my job and I couldn't make my dungeon shifts. And I thought, okay, it's time to grow up, throw myself really into my career. And I think I was out of the world for 6 years, maybe 5, before I thought I need to find a way back. I missed it so much.
Interesting. That's a long time.
Yeah. And I think I was focusing a little bit more on like finding a partner for myself. And I told myself the things of, oh, Amanda, the type of partner you want is never going to be okay with you being a dominatrix and things like that.
Right.
So I just sort of really put it away and thought that was a fun thing I did before, but it never went away. And I spent a lot of time thinking, how do I get back to it? How Can I go be a manager in a dungeon? Like, what can I do to experience this again? And then I realized there are so many other ways I can,
educate people and participate in this.
And stay in touch with this side of myself and
Yeah.
make this my career. And I discovered sex and relationship coaching. And it was really just like this aha moment, light bulb of like, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. So I went and got certified and started practicing again outside of work hours. So like I would still do my 9-to-5 job at the time. By then I was working at Peacock, and I would find clients. I would make videos for Instagram and TikTok after work, and then I was gaining popularity there, and then I'd get coaching clients, and I was like, okay, this is a fun side hustle, until it became pretty tiresome to do both. And through luck and some weird set of circumstances, I started doing it full time instead of at Peacock, or instead of like splitting life again, and threw myself fully into it nearly 2 years ago now. But I've been doing it for over 3 years.
Yeah, when I met you, you were still at Peacock.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know.
Because I feel like Peacock seems like so long ago.
I know. And there's something really magical that happens when you jump in like head on into a career and you're like, this is not my plan B anymore. This is
it's terrifying.
my only plan.
Oh,
yeah.
And not only was it my only plan. So what happened was I moved to Vegas, my remote work was approved, and then they took back they rescinded that after about a year of remote working, and I had to make a decision. Do I move back to New York or move to LA and continue doing both, or do I throw myself in? So I was like, no, by then I was making enough that I was pretty confident I was gonna be fine.
Yeah.
But I also, the same month that my job ended, my fiance and I broke up. So we had to like sell our house, and I just felt like I don't own a home. I'm no longer with my fiance, and I'm really on my own doing this. And it gave me such a fire in my belly to make it work, that at the time I was like very upset about the whole thing and sort of like, oh, woe is me. And now I'm like, thank God that all happened in one go, because it was my springboard.
Isn't it crazy how the universe sometimes like throws all the changes at once?
Oh, yeah.
For you to really like find the path that you're meant to be on.
Yes. And honestly, it's only now, I guess nearly 2 years later, that I feel settled from all of those changes. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting back to a normal routine of life and everything just being calm.
Yeah.
Which is nice. Like sometimes I hate it because obviously I like a little bit of drama in life, but I feel very settled now in it all. Like,
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, this is my career. This is what I'm doing.
So today, when you're working with your clients, you work with both individuals and couples, right? What are the similarities and differences between the clients that you're working with today versus the ones that came to you at the dungeon?
Ooh, one of the first things is oftentimes I get to talk to them and their partner.
Okay.
So most of my clients at the dungeon were men, but I had couples come to me so that I could teach the wife how to dom.
Right.
So I was kind of doing this work before. But
I had a couple that as a client that I ended up recommending to you.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, because they wanted to. So he wanted her to learn how to dom him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still do a lot of that work. So that's similar. But now I get to work with clients who really want to take this on and have it in their lives, as opposed to, I think I worked with a lot of people who gave up having it in their relationship.
Right.
And they explored it outside, which there's nothing wrong with. Now I'm working with people who are like, no, I really want to navigate this and figure out how to do it with my partner. So that's different. It's really interesting to get both sides of the story of like, oh, I brought it up this way, and then I get to talk to their partner and find out like, well, what really happened? Like, how did you find out about this? And there's often a disconnect. So I really get to the root of the problem now.
Yeah.
But when I see single men now who are interested in dating kinky, a lot of them have been to a dominatrix. So I'm seeing the same clients. They're just at a different stage in their life where they're ready to integrate it into the rest of their life, as opposed to on Wednesday at 7 p.m. I'm going to go to the dungeon and experience this.
That's great.
Yeah.
I know that you give advice on how to date in line with your kinks so that it doesn't become an afterthought, or you're not leaving like your values and yourself to the
Yes.
side so that you're able to really find a partner who's more aligned. What's some advice that you tend to give to your clients in that regard?
I love how you framed that and like how you set that up, because I don't want people leaving their values behind. So one of the first things I do talk to people about is how important is this really to you?
Right.
Because dating kinky is harder. You are just trying to optimize one more thing on top of, it's hard to meet people. It's hard to meet people on the apps. People aren't talking in person as much anymore. I check to make sure that it's really important to them. Usually if they've come to me, it is. And then I ask them to prioritize it. So I would recommend that if this is important to you, you recognize how important. If it's really low down and there's other things that are more important, I would suggest starting there and making sure those align, and then introducing the kink piece. The reason I say that is I have seen a lot of people who are like, oh, but she's dominant. She's a dom. And I'm like, your values don't align. Nothing else about your lives align. Are you sure you want to give it all up because this woman is dominant? And there's a lot of talking people off the ledge of like, I promise there's more dominant women out there, even if it doesn't feel like it. So I would say prioritize it, understand, is it just the person's kink that I'm enjoying on this date and that we share that? Or do I actually like the person as a whole?
Right. That's great advice.
Yeah.
And are there specific apps that you recommend for people, or are there ways for you to suss out if someone is into the same kinks as you are, if you're on more like vanilla leaning apps like Hinge, for example?
Oh, okay. I do. It's not perfect, but I recommend Field. I think
Okay.
it is a great option for people who are kinky. If kink is your number one priority and matching that, I recommend something called BD app, BEEDEE, because that you do a kink quiz. Remember a few years ago there was the BDSMtest.org and everyone could find
Yeah.
out their percentages? Those people made an app. So
Okay.
now you can date that way. But it was actually my boyfriend who told me about his trick on Hinge back when he was dating. He had a prompt on there. I think today more adults get spanked than kids. And he said anybody who commented on that had something kinky going on. So you can
That
try
was an
that.
easy filter. Yeah.
Yeah. And if they ignored it, he just knew like, okay, this is probably a vanilla date. But if they chose that to respond to, he was like, all right, game on. So I liked that. I was like, actually, that's really smart.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you two met, was it through an app or was it in person?
No, we actually met at a spanking event. So there are these.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Tell me about a spanking event. What is that?
There are national parties for a lot of people's kinks and fetishes. There are like massive kink weekend-long conventions. We met at one for spanking that was happening in Vegas, and he flew into town and I lived in Vegas, so I went.
Right.
They had it twice a year. I went and like stayed in the hotel and everything. We met at the welcome party at the bar, and he introduced himself, and we just started talking, and then hit it off, and that was it.
And how does the spanking dynamic happen? I mean, is it like you have different stations with different tools? Like, are there lines of people? Like, how does this take place? Because
Yes.
I understand that there's no sex involved. It's
Yeah.
just the spanking, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
We want to have sex, but like that is not what that weekend
That's the
party.
after party.
Yeah, that's there. It's all of the above. Like for the welcome party and the social events, you're not bringing your implements around and hitting people because you're at a hotel and there are other people there. But there are some closed events in conference rooms, and yes, there are some people have there are different events, and one of them is called roulette because it's in Vegas, so they lean into the theme, and you can go around to different people and get spanked by them and their different implements. So that exists. At night, there are suites, hotel suites, where people just go up and meet and talk to each other and like, can I spank you? And you have a mini conversation, then you
Right.
get like spanked. Again, no sex. And then you can also go back to someone's room if that's what you want to do and have a private session, and maybe sex happens. I don't know. I never had sex at these events. Even when I met my boyfriend, I was like we're new. We've just met. But all of
I'll
the
let
above.
you spank me, but the rest,
Yeah.
not so fast.
It really is like you're just sort of like, I'll catch you at the next party maybe, and we'll see then. But that's what happens at those parties. And there's role play events. Like some people have a schoolgirl fantasy of like being spanked by the teacher, and there are events around that. Like everyone's an adult. It's understand you're just role playing. No one's a child. It's all adults.
Right.
But those role plays exist so people can live out their fantasy.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
I love
it
how
is.
there's truly something for everyone.
Oh, there are so many different
Yeah.
parties that I've heard of. There are we'd be here all episode though. Yeah.
Tickle parties.
Oh, tickle, foot, diaper fetish people have weekend-long diaper parties. Everything exists.
What's a diaper party?
It's where people who enjoy, there's something called ABDL, adult baby diaper lover. That would make up the majority of people, I believe, who would go to one of those parties.
Okay.
But you can also just enjoy being in a diaper, and not everyone uses the diaper, but it's infantilizing and it's sort of embarrassing to be in a diaper. So just like cuckolding, maybe less like cuckolding, just like a lot of the other fantasies I talked about, the headspace behind it can differ, but then, you're looking at someone, you can't tell what the headspace is, you just see them in a diaper. Yeah.
Wow.
But it's really hard to have that kink need met. And I know we said we don't yuck other people's yum, but
Yeah.
I will tell you, a lot of kinksters yuck other people's yum. So I end up talking about diaper fetishes a lot to say, like, it's okay, you're normal. Yes, it's embarrassing and other people make fun of it, but just know, like, you are just as worthy and valid in having your desire and having it met as someone who wants spanking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's just shocking
Yeah.
because diapers are something so commonly associated with babies.
Absolutely.
But then, like, depends are everywhere.
Like very senile.
Geriatric people who
Yeah.
have incontinence. Yeah.
So this is a great segue into if you have a kink and you're in a long-term partnership or marriage and your partner either it does not want to know about it or is hesitant, how do you work with these couples? What is your advice to bridge this gap?
Ooh, yeah, that's exactly what I say. I say, let's build a bridge to each other. So I create the visual of husband, you're here, wife, you're here. Let's find out where you two can meet in the middle. And I work with them individually at first to really understand where they're at. And I tell whoever the kinky person is, it's not always the husband. Like sometimes I tell the wife, I'm like, tell me everything. I don't want to work on building your bridge and have you come back in a year and say, well, I didn't tell you everything.
Yeah.
People grow and evolve and it can happen, but like sometimes people do know and they're just like, well, I didn't think we could discuss this. So I work with the kinky person and say, tell me everything. I work with the non-kinky person and tell me, how do you feel about this? Like, if they're disgusted by it and that happens, I ask, like, what disgusts you? What feels not okay about this? And we
Right.
get to the root of it. Sometimes it's like, well, he's submissive and I was raised to believe men were men and they were strong and they were in charge. So this really goes against everything I ever believed in. That can happen. Equally for men, they can be like, I was taught not to hit a woman and now she wants to be hit and degraded. I feel sick to my stomach doing that. And we
Yeah.
work on relearning things. The first question I ask is, I ask the wife if she wants to be carrying that load. Like, does she want to do that or is she doing it because she feels she can't trust him?
Right.
And then I talk to him about it and I understand, like, why aren't you stepping up? I cannot tell you how many men I think we're at 6 clients now where I told them, do you know when you take out the garbage, you have to replace the garbage bag? 6. That is not an exaggeration. It's sometimes I'm literally doing the work of like, do you understand how important this is, and explaining the mentality in a calmer way.
Right.
But I talk to both of them about how much responsibility they have outside the bedroom and if they want it that way. And I start to work through that with people as well. You hit the nail on the head with this because no one wants to go into the bedroom and even feel that full switch. They want to be able to trust their partner outside of the bedroom, right? If you want to submit to someone, trusting the person you're submitting to is important. If you're carrying all the load because you don't trust them to do it, even if they could go into the bedroom and give you that experience, it's not going to be as fulfilling for you. So sometimes you do have to work on the outside things, like outside the bedroom things. And I work with a lot of people on that. And for some people, it helps them find their power. It also helps them build confidence for when they do go into the bedroom to do those things. Equally, say you have someone super dominant out, for an example where the wife is raising the kids and being that dominant person, and her husband also wants her to be dominant in the bedroom. I talk about how, well, sometimes that can feel like an extension of their day job. Why would they want their fantasy life to look like an extension of their day job? So it's looking at outside the bedroom and figuring out, how do you both make each other's lives better out there so that you can fully lose yourselves when you go into the bedroom.
Absolutely.
But it does work. Like,
Yeah.
it works when you start to pay attention. And another thing, I just want to say that this is super important. Oftentimes, the more stressed partner is the wife who is also a mom. And she's thinking about a lot of things, and the mental load is heavy.
It's real, yeah.
Yeah. The last thing on her plate that she even cares about right now is her own desire. So sometimes we spend 2 or 3 sessions just talking about her desire and what it actually is, prioritizing it. And I mean prioritizing it as they might have both come to me about his kink.
Right.
But I want to know hers before I move forward, because if I'm building a bridge together, I'm not building a bridge for one person. So I want to make sure they're both having their needs met and can find each other there.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that is one thing that I've heard you talk about before. You'll get clients who come in and, you know, one partner's like, well, I need to serve this other partner who's asking this from me. And it's like, no. What is it that you want as well? Like,
yes.
Let's bring this to the table so that it can be much more fulfilling.
Yeah. And then a lot of times that person who's just shown up to be there for their partner will say, I don't have any fantasies or I don't have any desires. And I have never had a client stop working with me, leaving, still thinking they don't have any fantasies or desires.
Yeah.
It's like we have a problem labeling our fantasies and desires because as women, we're often shamed about what we want.
Absolutely.
Even if it's just you want to be wined and dined, there's this whole thing that like you're a gold digger for wanting to be taken on a fancy date. Ridiculous. Yeah. So I think people shy away from talking about my fantasy is to feel like Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. That's fine. Like, you want to take a credit card, buy a evening, like a ball gown, go to the opera, and then be like bed sexily with like wine and whatever. That can be your fantasy. And I think a lot of us are taught, oh, that makes you, it's not even about shame. It's just like, oh, that makes you someone who's just using someone.
Or more superficially minded.
Yes.
Yes, of course.
And it's like, a blowjob is also using someone's mouth, but it's, you know, there for the purpose of like, we're going to enjoy this sexual energy together. That can be foreplay, like going to the opera together can be the foreplay that you enjoy,
right,
that you get to have.
And in situations where, you know, a partner doesn't really budge, like they just don't want to bridge the gap, like, what is your recommendation there? I talk to them about exploring kink outside of the relationship. Are they okay with their partner having this need met by going to a professional? Because that means a very little emotional involvement, so they can have their need met. Are they okay with a non-monogamous situation with or without sex? And we explore those options for them. If not, we talk about separation too, because that if it's that important to one person to have it, it's like, is it so important that you leave this relationship? I haven't had a client say that yet. So sometimes we have to sit down and have 1, 2, 3 sessions on sitting with the disappointment of knowing this need is not going to be met in this relationship. Right. And seeing like, well, there's a lot of other things I enjoy and prioritize over this need. So yes, it's sad. We work through that. Sometimes people have to come back for that one because sometimes you think, oh, okay, I'm over it, I understand. And then a year later, the desire creeps up again and you're like very sad. And there's a grief to not having needs met. Yeah. So sometimes it goes that route too. Yeah, that is really hard when you really love someone, but you have these desires, especially because, you know, when you're with someone for decades, you also change throughout that time and you learn new things about yourself and you need new things. And recently when I was interviewing Carly Pfeiffer from Aurora, she was mentioning how she, you know, because her desires have evolved, she's written a How to Get Me Wet guide and like sent it to her boyfriend because she's like, whatever worked when we met no longer works now. Yeah. I need this, you know, and I found that to be quite genius. It is genius. I used to joke I'd make a PowerPoint for boyfriends to explain my interest in spanking, and I never did it, but I love when everyone prioritizes their pleasure, but especially women, because we don't see it as often. So I love when they are very adamant about, hey, this is what I need and want, and I'm going to make it easy for you to give it to me because I'm going to like hand you the book. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. So If anybody wants to start exploring kink, what are the lighter ways that you recommend?
I would do a little bit of research. I would, like, if you've read erotica and that's your only example, I would go find a blog, or everyone's on Instagram and TikTok making videos now. Find someone who has some credentials and it's not just like, oh, I've done this with one partner. Like, learn, see, pay attention to who you're learning from, but explore different aspects of it. Like, are you leaning towards submissive? Are you leaning towards dominant? Or do you just want to experience pain, for example, and you're not really looking for that headspace that we were talking about? Decide what you want to try and then try the entry level version of it. Do not go from 0 to 10, you go from 0 to 1. Right. And that might be, if it's impact, spanking with a hand, not using some heavy wooden implement. If it's bondage, I would not recommend anything like metal handcuffs. I definitely would not recommend you try bondage with actual ties or silk. Go to the store and buy some leather cuffs or even those Velcro cuffs, something that comes off easily.
Right.
That's your intro. Yes, it costs money to invest in these things, but at least you're doing it safely before you jump all the way in.
Yeah.
So try things on light mode, on easy mode before going head first.
One thing that I love is just like blindfolding.
Yes, I highly recommend that to anyone who feels insecure about their body or just kind of can't stop thinking. That blindfold can help. What do you love about it?
I love how I'm unable to really know what's going on, so it creates this anticipation for what's next. And I'm also just the one that's not in charge, right? Like, I truly have to surrender and allow my husband to do what it is that he wants to do, obviously within what we agreed upon. But it's just a really nice form of, heightening sensation and building anticipation for me.
Yeah, and it fully absolves you of responsibility because you're not even there to watch. You're just there to enjoy.
Yeah, but I felt that recently when I did shibari for the first time at Esther Perel's live session. So it was like a very light version of it, just from the upper body. And my husband and I had been wanting to do this for a while now, and I will say that if you want to try shibari, work with a practitioner. And I love the experience because it was another form of surrender that I felt like I was unable to really touch upon in anything else that like I'm doing in the bedroom with my husband.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. It's actually so sensual too, with the time you're putting into it.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at shibari. I've taken classes. It's
what do you not?
Oh, I hate to say this. I'm just not an artistic person, and I think that plays into it because I don't know. Maybe I overthink it. I think and the way the rope is supposed to go, it's not pretty. There are pictures that I have on my phone of sessions that are, but I enjoy being tied up.
Yeah.
But I'm the type of person who wants to be also good at doing it. And yes, taking a class is really one of the best ways to learn.
Yeah. No, I think it's really important for the safety.
Even the safety of it,
Yeah.
Or even getting to experience, if you can hire someone or go to an educational experience where you get the opportunity to get tied up by someone professional or who does it all the time, it allows you to fully feel it and know that you're doing it safely as opposed to just two people trying it, because those ropes can get tangled. It is beautiful and slow, but it can get dangerous really quickly too.
Yeah.
Not to scare anyone,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I like this advice to go learn from a professional.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so if anybody wants to bring up their kink to their partner, how do you recommend approaching this conversation?
Definitely do not just launch it on someone when they're busy or even in the bedroom before you're about to have sex. That is not the time.
Right.
Find a time that you're both calm, especially if you have morning coffee together, or if you have a chat at night before you go to sleep, that's fine too. Find a moment where you're both focused on each other and then lead with curiosity. I do not recommend just dumping your fantasy on them because there's no framework then of what they're supposed to do with it from there. My recommendation is you ask, have you ever had any fantasies you've wanted to explore? And if they answer, please listen. Like, this is no longer just about you sharing. It's opening the conversation. 9 times out of 10, usually if this is being brought up, the response is no, nothing. And then you need to be ready to say, well, I have a fantasy. Is it okay if I share it with you? Get permission, share the fantasy. And what I recommend is, before you go into that conversation, have done a little work on yourself and what intrigues you about it. For example, if bondage is your thing, if you're like, I really want to try shibari, maybe you've never tried it before, so you're not sure what appeals to you, but share what appeals to you. Say, like, I really want to try bondage because I have this feeling it's going to make me feel safe and held, and I want to explore that. So you're not just presenting the thing, you're also presenting how you want to feel.
It's not just the what, it's the why behind it. Yeah.
And feelings are relatable. Sometimes a kink is not, but I want to feel this type of way. I think we all have enough empathy to say, like, okay, I understand what you're saying in that regard, and then go from there. Thank them for listening, but also, like, provide some next step for them. Like, would you be willing to explore this with me? That would be a next step. Or are you willing to think about exploring it with me? And you're going to know your partner well enough to know how to approach that part of the conversation. I just like the reminder of, don't just spring this on them, because oftentimes we can feel so pent up about our own thing that we want to share that when we decide I'm going to have the conversation, you just blurt it out. And it's not the best.
And I actually just want to share that one of the easier ways for you to bring up this kind of conversation is through an intimacy card deck. And I created one. It's here in the studio today. It's called the Wanderlust Mindful Intimacy Card Deck. And it's really to help couples dive into these conversations that can feel hard or awkward to get into, but it's the card that asks the question, not you. And you start on, a more like romantic, easier path on level 1, and then you can dive into the seriously spicy.
So you warm up
so
into
you
hot and spicy.
Up, exactly. Yeah. But people have really loved the fact that it takes the pressure off of their back, and it becomes something more like a date night experience where this kind of conversation organically comes up, right? Yeah. So that can be also a really great way to initiate the conversation.
And I like that it's also then can become habit forming.
Yeah.
Having conversations like this and answering questions like this is not something out of the blue. It's as natural as a game night with friends. You're just having an intimate game night.
Exactly.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Thank you. What do you wish more people understood about their fantasies before they lived it out?
My hope for people is that they actually think about not just the fantasy, because it's easy to get wrapped up in the fun part of it, but the reality of how they want to feel. Say you have your fantasy needs met. At the end of that session or experience, how do you want to feel? How do you want to feel during it? And start to develop that, because that's how you're going to start getting in touch with yourself better. So you're not just chasing the high of the experience, you're really meeting your own needs in the process too.
Amanda, thank you so much for coming here today. If you're interested in working with Amanda, or check out any of her courses at amandadames.com or thekinkconsultant.com. And we're going to be linking her socials as well, which is at @Kink Consultant on Instagram.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to Lesson Translation. If you enjoyed this, please hit follow wherever you listen and leave a review. It helps more people find us, and it means everything. See you next week.